Hey, I'm Tim from Circuitous Effects, and you're watching Defining Circuit. Defining Circuit is a periodic interview series where I chat with fellow creators in the music world about what inspired them and define their passion in building the moments, ideas, experiences, and even the circuit that sparked their drive to create for musicians. Today I'm joined by Tom Hayda from Messiah Guitars. Tom, thanks so much for being here. To kick things off, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Tim. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I don't know where to start. Well, I do what you do. I build pedals. As the name of the company tells you, it didn't start that way. So I started with guitars. I did some amps, and then I figured, well, what else do I know how to do? Uh, I didn't really know how to make pedals, but I have, a bit of background in circuitry, and that's how I got into that.
That's great. Yeah. So, what do you think was the first thing that kind of, as you got into making guitars, making amps, pedals, and everything, like what really pulled you in to building and made it something that you felt like you wanted to do?
Well, it's interesting because in the beginning it was really just I would love to make a guitar. It sounds cool, right? There was no
Yeah.
real agenda behind it. It was not a business. It was just let's call it a hobby. Uh, so I learned from a friend of mine who is a very experienced guitar builder. Has been working for some huge companies for probably 17 years or so.
Yeah. That's great.
So a lot of experience. He showed me a lot of tricks in kind of a Cliff Note style flash course, and I paid a lot of attention, and I'm still learning, but of course that helped me to kind of put the first thing together. And now I build guitars. I have a few orders in right now
Four guitars.
for
That's
guitars.
great. So, okay. Well, so first,
Some
I guess
some
tell me like what was the first guitar you built? Now tell me what like I guess what people are ordering.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, first guitar was basically a Telecaster style, a double humbucker guitar with a whole bunch of fancy switching with a flame top, with an orange top, and it was inspired by GNL, not by Fender. So that
Yeah.
kind of like a deluxe, but not a bit wide range, but actual real humbuckers. It was cool. I have it. I play it all the time. I use it as my test guitar.
That's cool. And so, what are people ordering now? Is it?
What people are doing, well, that's why I built less now than I wanted to, because I get a little bit bored by the monotonous requests like, I'd like a Strat, I'd like a Telly. I'm like, well, go buy a Strat, go buy a Telly. But I still build them,
Yeah.
when it comes to it. So I have a just finished a body. It's a Swamp Ash. It's sitting in the shop, and I just sprayed the neck, which is now curing, and I have a couple more other guitars, and they're more exciting because they're both original designs
Okay.
for people who are more adventurous. But it's not winning either, because with the more unusual stuff, there's a lot of back and forth with the customer.
Yeah.
So you spend more time talking about it than building it, and
Yeah.
it just kind of compounds.
Right.
And I wish it would be a little easier. But I'm still happier to do the original stuff than the vanilla stuff,
Yeah.
which
That's
you
cool.
can
So
basically close your eyes and tie one of your arms behind your back.
it just
But
pops.
yeah, I still enjoy it, and I'm glad that these new models are kind of sort of making their way in.
That's cool. I can't wait to see what they look like. That sounds interesting.
And
Um,
you will.
so you mentioned, of course, getting into amps and pedals. Of course, I've been lucky enough to play through some of your pedals and amps, actually.
You did.
Meetup that we did a while back, and they're super super cool. And I think you've got a really interesting way of looking at, I guess, the not just the circuits inside, but the way they look as well, right? So they're pretty unique compared to a lot of other stuff out there. Uh,
Yeah, I build them in not so unique enclosures, but I try to make them look cool and work cool. I'm a big fan of um, top jacks. I'll show you here real quick. Um, my most successful pedal of all time. Well, dusty this one. So this is the Eddie Boost Drive,
yeah.
which you haven't seen yet. It's a signature pedal for a Nashville-based session player named Eddie Haddad.
Hmm.
Again, it is not a famous player. It's just a really good player. Now my friend, who basically makes his money playing music, and he knows everyone, you know. So we sold, I'm not sure, 400 of these maybe. The red one was actually for dealers, for the few dealers I sell through. Mine is sort of like a army green, the one I sell directly, and the limited edition we started with, that's how we launched it, was like black.
All right.
The blackout edition, but they're all the same circuit.
Yeah, that's cool.
One of the first pedals which you did play was, I call it Billy, and it's sort of an homage to Timmy, which is a tweaked Timmy, my way, but it's the topology is very much the same. And it's I know this is going to be a word that people don't like to hear, transparent drive, as much as it can be. And so that went through some developments, through some versions, adding features. I have an unreleased one, which is feature full. But then what I started doing are also mini pedals. So here is the version of the Billy in a mini format called Bellini. And that one only has vintage germanium diodes in it for clipping. So it's a really kind of subtle, very cool sounding pedal. Yeah. So yeah, those minis are kind of becoming popular just because they're cute, they sound good, and they're cheaper.
Yeah.
It's not great for me, but it's good for the customers, you know, for the players. I mean, don't you find that kind of interesting that the smaller the pedal is, the less money it costs, no matter how cool it is. The amount
of work and stuff that goes into it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I did streamline a little bit, so I know it is slightly easier for me to build those now, but just because I kind of found my way of doing it. For example, the Bellini I showed you, like this one has through the whole parts. And I'm doing more and more SMD now.
Yeah.
Which brings me to another quick example. You know, the newest iteration of that 80 pedal, we call that Session Edition. It comes in this sand white. And then because minis are popular, so guess what it birthed? So this is a baby of that. But this guy is pretty much the same thing without the boost.
Yeah.
It also has the side switch there, kind of hidden. So this has a side switch, which switches between the two clippings.
Okay.
As in the big pedal, which is silicon LED.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just touched on something. I want to get your take on this, because I think a lot of builders have varying opinions on whether or not pedals should, I guess use the latest greatest components or old school, NOS vintage circuit components and things like that. A lot of us, me myself included, enjoy working with vintage components, kind of as a fun sort of thing to do, and if we can sneak them into pedals, we do once in a while. But for instance, I really for some of the circuits that I build, they don't need a lot of the vintage stuff, right? And I wonder what your opinion of is it like how pedals how people should approach pedals. Is it really important to have vintage components? And
it isn't. That's just my opinion. No, but there's a place for it. So you kind of touched upon that. Sometimes you need that one part that gives you the mojo, so to speak. Like in this guy, it has 4 NOS ITT 134As in there, 134As, and I tried other stuff, and this just sounds the best. It's not too much, it's not too little, it's not too quiet. This just gives you what you need. It just sounds good. And that's what I put in there. And then, for example, this is another like unreleased mini. I'm trying to show it just because it's so cute. Called Malkin.
Yeah.
And this is based on a Fuzzrite, but as you and everyone else knows, Fuzzrite has 2 knobs. It has 3, so it has also a tone on there. But the fuzzing is also made by vintage germanium transistor, and I found one that works. That sounds great. Tried a few, and this one particular transistor just sounds right, so it's in it. But that's the only vintage part in it. And I'm all for it. And I know a lot of builders we both know are very much the vintage guys who make big box fuzz with 8 components in it, and they're all vintage. That's not what I do. I think you can get really great sounds even with the select vintage parts that actually make the sound, and then you'll have easier time building it with tighter tolerances and non-expired capacitors.
Yeah.
for example.
Yeah. Right. So okay. Where you brought up a little about how sometimes those components create a certain sound, right? That you just have to have.
Mhm.
It sounds so good. Was there any particular sound, I guess, when you were getting into all of this, whether it be, I mean, even a telly, as you were building it, or an amp that you were building, or some sort of pedal sound? Was there something that really kind of sparked your interest and made you want to follow it and try to figure out how to make that particular sound?
Kind of yes and no, because I didn't really focus on any one thing. I think I'm too scattered to do that. But I'm always inspired by in the moment when I hear something like, this sounds cool. What is it? I might be lying actually. When I heard the Octavia, I was thinking I need to do this and I need to do it better. I will be cocky and say that I succeeded, but I think it's due to what we just talked about, which is modern parts with tighter tolerances and reliable specs. Because that thing I did, I just tweaked it a little and kind of modified the schematic to adapt to modern vanilla transistors off the shelf. Still has a transformer and works great.
It's interesting because with a circuit like that, I mean, you end up getting less drift, you end up getting octaves on more areas of the neck, and it's interesting how,
especially on the lower notes, which the Octavia can do. $400 pedal reissue now, it can't really play anything on the low E because. I mean, you can. It's just you cannot get the octave. On my pedal, you get the octave. It's there.
That's amazing.
Every single time, and that's kind of probably touching upon that question you had about if anything in particular inspired me. So this would be something, and that's kind of my philosophy for anything that's based on something. Just like with the little Malkin guy here, which is based on a Fuzzrite, but it does have a tone and an extra gain stage.
Yeah, I wanted to know maybe is there something that you or many things that you do differently now than when you first started, some things that you learned?
Yes, what I do differently now is I build it better. Everything I do is just better. With the experience, you learn the tricks. And I don't mean just better as in quality. I think my quality has been always pretty great in terms of reliability. But I think who inspired me, because there's a particular person. It was Jesse from 29 Pedals.
Okay, yeah.
He said, I'm really tired of wiring jacks. And I didn't understand it then because I was just kind of starting out.
Yeah.
And then after I built, my first 100 pedals or so, I was thinking, I know what he's talking about. So I've been doing things where in the regular size pedals, I put in a jack plate. So I can even demonstrate in this new version. You can see it's recessed.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because it's on my board and it's just being held by the two nuts of the input and output.
Right.
And it's soldered on the board. And it's solid. It's the same with the switchboards. The switchboards were wired, but I always had a board for the switches. But soon after I wired my first few pedals, I realized I had to line up the motherboard and the switchboard and just use pin headers or connectors for those things.
Great. Yeah. So last question. You've shown us some of your new pedals and the little mini babies that are coming from them, which is exciting to see.
And some are just in the baby form too. Some of them don't even have their parent.
That's great. Yeah. So what are some other things that we can look forward to Messiah Guitars and the work that you're doing?
Well, right now I am working on some new stuff. I have a few pedals that are not released just because I have too many and I can oversaturate the market. So there are some things I don't want to talk about yet, but I will foreshadow that Eddie and I have been working on something for a long time. And we have a dual boost in a full-size pedal coming out, which is super fancy. It's got a lot of controls. Awesome. It's going to be really, really cool. I mean, really cool.
Exciting stuff. That's amazing.
So that's really cool. And then I'm also working on, as much as we talked about, me not really liking working with all vintage parts. I'm trying to use up my vintage parts, so there might be a few vintage fuzzes I come up with on like a limited way, and they will be bigger. Yeah. I'm still doing painted enclosures with UV print as usual, but probably slightly bigger format.
Okay.
Maybe 2 knobs, something like that.
Well, this has been great, Tom. Thank you so much for taking the time to visit and share your story. It's been a real pleasure for sure, and I'm looking forward to seeing the new stuff and maybe playing through it as well. That'd be fun.
Awesome. Yeah, we have to do another meet at some point
Yeah,
soon. Those kind of disappeared. I miss those.
it's been tough getting those together, but they'll be coming back for sure. So
Awesome.
yeah, well, all right, that wraps up this episode of this Defining Circuit. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the conversation, stick around. More interviews are on the way, where I'll keep exploring all of the things that define what we do and why we do it. Thank you so much. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you. Bye.